What is up, dudes? Lady dudes, welcome back to Justnutz, guys. Today, I've got another Invoked style deck profile. I'm sorry if you're tired of it because I already uploaded one like a week ago, but I have another one and this one's a little more interesting. The other one was a pretty standard kind of Mech Knight Invoked list, but this one actually gets a little bit more spicy, much more my style, and if you're a fan of me, possibly your style as well, if you know yours tend to align with mine. So pretty much what this is an actual like going first like invoked control list, because with recent new support cards, Alistar by himself is a one-card Macabre. So you could really set up like some pretty strong like control situations, and it works out. Can it be relatively fragile to the right kind of stuff? Definitely. Definitely. You definitely have weaknesses, but for the most part, it's a really strong control strategy that just sets up some really strong disruption. So let's get into the list here. This is definitely an early rendition of this deck, but this is where I am now. And if you're interested in this and you love deck cores, kind of like the Invoked one, kind of like Subterrors and Hidden City, like those field spells that search and then the monsters that search, I'm a huge fan of those. This deck is definitely something you should take a look at. We'll start with the most important monster in the deck, 3 Alistar, the Invoker. Nothing crazy to say here. Like I said, he's a one-card Macabre with a negate in hand. He's actually a no-card Macabre because you end with him in hand, so it's actually like you activated nothing. It's like you have no card economy, you get a Macabre on board with a negate live at least. And then he also, his effective discard comes up in very rare situations. Sometimes an opponent's out to our Macabre is beating over it, and Alistar can also be used to make that not possible. And the only other like actual monster you play in the main deck is 2 Fairy Tale Luna. I'm really liking this card, actually. It's a disruption. If you don't know what it does, on normal summon, it searches any spellcaster with exactly 1,850 attack points. There's not a ton out there. You're not searching any familiar possessed stuff. You're usually just searching the second copy just as either an extra negate for Macabre or extra fodder to let Macabre negate, or just a follow-up play next turn. But the main effect about her is that during either player's turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and you bounce both this card and that monster back to the hand, but your opponent can negate that if they send one copy of that same monster from their deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So you need to be very specific on what you're hitting. You need to know the decks you're dueling against and what you're going to do, so your knowledge will definitely make this card better for you, but it's been really good. I mean, 1850 is no joke. It gets over Sunlight Wolf, it gets over Galatea. What else am I missing? Gets over most of the Sky Striker stuff. It's good. It's really good. And I just needed one more normal summon just because like you only can really play like 7 copies of Magical Meltdown. So I was just looking for like something else that can hold down the fort and kind of stall until we draw into like some invoked stuff in a lot of duels. Let me play a bunch of hand traps. Nothing crazy here. 3 Ash, 3 Ogre, 3 Veiler. Going second, these are just going to get you a Light Engrave super easy, or Fire Engrave. Not that that really matters, because both of the link monsters that you have can already just make Alistar like do that. But at least it saves you like an extra material. And that this deck is like very slow, so you kind of need to stop people going first, or when you're going second, but they're going first. You need to stop them from doing whatever they want, because a lot of these decks are just going to set up a lot of negates, and depending on your hand, you can't really play through a ton of negates. So I think these are very important. You could definitely mess around with the hand trap list. I'm just on 3/3/3 right now. I didn't want to think too hard about it. You could definitely play impermanence though if you wanted to, something like that, if you have it. And then we move to the spells. So obviously, since Alistar is the most important monster in the deck, that makes Magical Meltdown the most important spell in the deck. It's really good. It makes your fusion summons unnegatable and unrespondable too, which is just so good. And it just gets you Alistar. Boom. Nothing crazy there. Consistency. I'm not really messing around. I do play Desires. I ordered my 3rd copy of Invocation, so it's on the way. I know it's cringy to see, you know, proxy or whatever, just not having it, but it's on the way. I've been testing even with it like this with friends, and it's been good. I'm not trying, like, if you banish all 3 Alistars or all your invocations, like, you can just lose, so I'm really not trying to mess with that too much. So just playing 3 of those. 3 Called by the Grave. Again, Alistar is the most important card to resolve, so we're really not trying to let hand traps make our play like Alistar pass, you know. So just trying to stop Ashes, Veilers, and Permanences. Don't care about Ogre at all. But yeah, the main three, trying to stop those. And also against all the meta decks, like, it's a legitimate disruption, which kind of like is hilarious to me, how like good it is as a disruption, just plainly. I mean, you're banishing Harp Horrors from Orcus, you're banishing Rays from Strikers, you're banishing Thunder Dragons so they don't resolve in Grave or in Banish, and you're banishing Sunlight Wolf or whatever, you know, Spinnies, whatever else Sunlight Salamangreats are putting in Grave. So it's like a legitimate disruption against all those decks, even if they don't have the hand trap. 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This is just another, like, with your hand traps and with this card, this just gives you 12 cards that, like, are still pretty good going second. This is what allows you to break a lot of boards going second. I was playtesting against Pendulums, and I broke a board because of this. And it was super awkward, too, because they didn't have 2 Darks on board, but they had a Vortex. And I normaled an Alistar, did not use his effect because they were going to be able to negate and destroy him. So I super polyed my Alistar, which is a Dark, and their Vortex, which is a fusion for the Predaplant fusion. And that actually pretty much let me break that board, and was the one negate, or like the last negate, kind of standing in my way. So that was pretty lit. But yeah, Super Poly just so good, and you can use, there are specific situations where you can use like Alistar on board with an opponent's monster to make like invoked stuff, because they're all like semi-generic. They're all half generic. They need an Alistar and then any attribute, which is good. 2 Pot of Desires. Like I said, like, we're really, if you have a hand that doesn't have a normal summon in it, you're trying to dig for either the Meltdown, the Terraforming, or your Alistar or Luna. That's all this really is, and you're just activating it. It also baits out Ash, so if they have the 1 Ash, you activate it first, and they get that gets the Ash, they can let your Alistar go through it, which is more important if you already have it. And then we just, instead of playing like the Mech Knight stuff and all the going second stuff, you just play going first stuff. Strong trap cards. 3 Solemn Judgment, nothing crazy here. A lot of times with Macabre, you don't end with spells and traps in hand. You usually end with monsters in hand, so you're always like, you're usually negating monster effects. And this just says no to like spell and trap stuff, so it kind of just helps cover the bases, the potential weaknesses of Macabre. And then just, even if they don't have stuff like that, you're just negating summons. So really, really strong card. That 3 copies of There Can Be Only One. This card really doesn't like what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict with too many things. There can be specific situations, but you usually just go like Alistar to link Alistar into Almirage, and then you can if there's usually something in Grave already that you can like Invocation for whatever monster you're looking for. All the invoked monsters are different types, so like usually doesn't conflict there. But like I said, there are specific situations where it can be annoying. Like Alistar and Luna are both spellcasters, so you can't put multiple of those on the field at the same time. Not a huge deal, but it's just going to hurt the meta more than it's going to hurt you. Just beat Salamangreats. It can be a huge problem for Orcus. It can be a huge problem for Thunder. And it just isn't. It's not a huge problem for Striker, but it can be very annoying when they can't get from Link Monster to Link Monster and roll through their engine. 3 copies of Crackdown. The main reason I like Crackdown is because of Invocation. You can just steal something and then fuse it off without having to use stuff in Grave or using an active resource that you already stole from your opponent to make something powerful. So I like that, and also we'll get to the extra deck, and there might be some cool stuff you can play there that we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, just again, another reason I like this is because Macabre negates activated monster effects, but if your opponent just tries to make something big without activating an effect you can negate and try to beat over Macabre, this card is just going to steal that and just like from the battle phase, and they'll probably just like lose from there. Same thing with like Judgment. If they just go to a monster without activating effects you can negate, just negate the summon and then you're good, right? So those are really nice. And then the last card I have here is 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. This card is kind of like a random slot that I was kind of looking at like a couple different things, couple different just good traps in general. I threw around the idea of playing possibly like Metaverse, but I decided on Heavy Storm Duster. You have like no cards that actually out back row. You like negate back row with Judgment, but if they go first and set back row, like what do you do? So I'm playing this, at least hopefully you open this and you can just set it into their back row, or going first you just set it if you're hopefully you're playing a deck. Like you see random stuff like Thunder now, like there's people just playing like Thunder Stun with like trap cards. So like this card can be used against so many different things. That it's just good, and it's only 2 of, and doesn't clog too much there. Then we'll move to the extra deck. 40 cards even. I almost always play 40, especially in a deck like this where you need to be careful and not bricking. You need to see alistar, that kind of thing. Got to play 40. Extra deck. 2 at Makaba. This is a specific control build. You're usually making one turn 1, and sometimes there are duels where your opponent outs that. You still have a way, you have an alistar in hand for next turn. Normal alistar, get another invocation, make another Makaba, control again. So you need to play 2. 3 is just overkill in my opinion. And the only other 2 I play is 1 Purgatrio and 1 Elysium. With Super Poly, Elysium could be really spicy. Going for game, like you could just like attack Purgatrio, attack. And if they have one more monster in that was in like the extra monster, or that was just fetched from the extra deck, just take it and Purgatrio and make him, and then attack direct for 32. It's pretty good. It's come up, and then it's a very strong disruption on the board, very strong. But it's a high risk, high reward kind of play, but good nonetheless. Then we move to regular Super Poly targets: the Starving Venom, the Predaplant, Dragostapelia, the Mud Dragon, and the Plexer Chimera. I'm just a little early on the Plexer Chimera. Like, I know like Marine Cess will be playable after Chaos Impact, and I don't know, you could possibly run into a deck that plays, or somebody playing like Code Talkers as a rogue strategy or something, and I don't know, we have Adignisters on the horizon. I'm just playing it now just in case, because I think it just covers more stuff, even though it's a little weaker than Violet Chimera. It covers a little more matchups than just Salamangrates. And then for the links, 1 Almirage, 1 Secure Gardna, 1 alistar, the Invoker of Madness, and 1 Unicorn. Nothing super crazy here. I guess if you don't understand Secure Gardna, it takes any Cyber's link monster to make. So you just go alistar, search, link alistar for Almirage, link Almirage for Gardna, and then that's your light. It's without even like discarding a hand trap or doing anything. You can just use Secure Gardna on the field with your alistar and Grave to make a Makaba. That's why alistar is now a 1 card Makaba, because you can just go through Almirage to get to Gardna and then make that live. Very good. And then he doesn't really come up for much. He can come up in specific situations, like you can like crack down, steal something, and make him, just as long as they're not the same type and attribute as something you have. And then Unicorn's just there if you can put enough materials on board, adding the 1 random card. And also with Crackdown, you steal monsters and you just want a reason to get rid of them. And then for the last cards, these are kind of like flex slots that I think if I were to play something, I'd want to make extra use out of Crackdown. So I think for the meta specifically, I'd play like 1 Dingirsu so that you can steal like a Galatea or a Longirsu and make a Dingirsu, send a card they control, put a big beat stick on the board, and also have a card that just protects your whole board all at once. So I think that's like a pretty good utility to just add extra power to your Crackdowns. 1 Kagari for Sky Strikers. I think Kagari is probably the right, if you play Crackdown, I think Kagari is the right play because 1, it gains attack, so it's better than Kaina, even though like you can almost always make Kaina. It actually gains attack, so it has extra utility, just in being a big beat stick. But the main thing is, like, you're never going to take a Kagari. Like, there's no reason to steal a Kagari with Crackdown because it's going to resolve anyway. Like, Crackdown's not going to negate that effect. So we want to bait them into going into, like, Hayate to attack directly. When they declare an attack, steal it. They wasted their battle phase. They wasted that, and even if they can connect it back into a monster, they can't, like, attack again. Or you're stealing a Shizuku so that they don't get the search on end phase, and then you link it to Kagari. Like, you're never stealing Kagari. There's, like, no reason for it. And then I'd probably play, like, Hita. Just because, like, you already play Almirage as a super easy card to, like, go through as part of your stuff. And then you crack down, make Hita, and then you can steal fires from a Salamangrate player. You can steal, like, Sunlight Wolves, whatever. You can steal a Spinny as link fodder just so that it gets banished on your terms. You can steal Sunlight Wolf just for, and then Sunlight Wolf just for, like, an extra beat stick. Can be pretty good. And that's pretty much it for the deck. I wasn't sure about those. I was thinking possibly playing another, like, Starving Venom, just because if you make 1, sometimes you draw a second Super Poly and you need to Super Poly twice in a duel. Sometimes you can't resolve that. I thought about something, like, even more generic than alistar as a link too, like playing the Psyframe link, but without actually playing Gammas and stuff in the deck, because I'm not playing the going second version. I was, like, iffy on that. And stuff like, I don't know, generic stuff like Nightmare Phoenix and stuff, but it doesn't open up zones, so you can't, like, fusion after that, and it's just kind of iffy from there, so I wasn't really sure. But that's pretty much it for the list, guys. If you're really interested in, and you really like the controlled style, but you always liked Invoke, but you were like, it just doesn't work going first, you can't do enough. It really does work going first. It's actually a legitimately solid going first control strategy. And if you haven't thought about trying it out, I definitely highly recommend it. It's not crazy expensive. Invocation's a couple bucks. Some of the extract monsters are a couple bucks. But outside of that, I mean, you should already have your hand traps. If you already have super polys, if you already have like these generic cards, like it's not really expensive at all. And you can customize if you want to play different traps. I thought about playing like Lost Wind or something like that. I thought about playing. I thought of playing a small Mech Knight package that can still work going first, but also going second better. I thought about doing that. There's a lot of customization you can do here, so I just want to open the door for that. And yeah, but this is my list, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you think I should try something out that I'm not trying currently, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cool. Thanks for watching. Peace.